a gift from the professor, if you remember him, the man who found me lying down in a 1,300-year-old lost castle latrine. These coffee beans to fuel our research from Uganda. And this is unlike any coffee I've ever had. It's really good, really, really good, with a slight scent of vomit, but in a good way. So thank you, Professor. Thank you, Uganda. I am super busy here. I don't like neglecting you guys. I know I have been. I'm sorry. I've got a lot to do. So I don't have time, even now, to make a video. This is not a video. This is an audio. And it's just got to be that or nothing. If I keep waiting to have time to make a video, we'll just wait a lot longer. But I want to say today, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you. Wow, what a year. Another lean year for the Brinks of Japan. 4th lean year in a row, business-wise. Hoping for a fat year coming up, but still, I feel like the richest man in town, like George Bailey, thanks to God and family and friends. And I thank God for my family and friends, and I thank you. This has been the biggest year in Hibagon research, arguably since ever. Now, still no sightings of naughty juveniles bouncing around. I think 50 years ago, that was probably one mentally handicapped juvenile, maybe injured, maybe deaf, maybe blind. I do believe he was compromised in some way, and that's why he kept walking in front of people, breaking Hibagon protocol, and drawing out family members to shadow him, to retrieve him. That's my leading theory on that. And that's why we have this stubborn, idiotic, fake factoid that Hibagon are 5'2", because this one juvenile who was getting around so much, yeah, he was 5'2". And all humans are the same height too, aren't they? It's just moronic. And it ignores the footprint evidence. The footprints always came in different sizes. But we demolished that old canard this year. My wife demolished it. She found the handprint 11 inches long, longer than my foot. Men, put your hand against the sole of your foot. Put your hand up against your boot. Let's just appreciate how big that hand is. And footprints that don't seem to go with that hand, unless we ought to be calling these things big hands, not Bigfoots. Suggesting to me an adult crouched, ready to grab the deer and rip its head and spine out, and a juvenile flusher to flush the deer down that deer trail to his dad. And that makes sense, because a little guy could get up there more quietly, get in back of the deer, and then chase him down to his daddy. Now this proves a thriving, reproducing population and working together, proving communication and teamwork, which we already proved last year by the structures that require communication and teamwork, but here we see it again in another task, in another slice of Hibagon life. Also in spring, on our second trip, Yoichi and I went up as guides We were just going to be guides for our friend Virgil from France. And that's all we had planned. But Virgil couldn't make it. And we were there on Mount Heba, so we took the opportunity. We tested a theory of mine. And by the Japanese mother goddess, we did it. We found the still sealed doorway of a massive tomb right where I predicted it should be and would be. And it was, and it is. The traditional tomb is not a tomb at all, although it points to the true tomb if you read it correctly. And we're the first in thousands of years to read it correctly and read the Kojiki correctly, the oldest text in the Japanese language. This little guy, this little varmint hunter from Rat Portage, North Ontario, found the tomb of the Japanese mother goddess. I can't believe it. We proved it again in the autumn, proved it more, by inserting a camera deep inside a crack beside the door, revealing, as, again, predicted, expected, megalithic block construction. The exterior of the shaft leading to the burial chamber, most likely. Possibly the burial chamber itself, but I think we are only as far in as the exterior of the birth canal tunnel entrance. The tomb, womb, burial chamber is deeper in and down, I believe. Also this autumn, fresh buttock prints, 60 centimeters wide, that's 2 feet wide. Again, not made by someone 5'2". I estimate someone 8 foot tall, matching the handprint. A younger but adult male, not the boss, not the Hiba boss. This guy's job is watching the west side of the mountain from his perch here, while the big boss is in the interior with his concubines, most likely. If you remember 2 years ago, my panic at the solar calendar, mind speak, and total, sudden, whole body physiological impact and impairment, this is the same hillside. The same hillside with upside-down tree and other structures and the steel cable monstrosities. On that day when I received the panic, I had put myself between this lookout seat and the bowl down the gorge, the bowl of the solar calendar. That's where I was when I was told between my ears to get out, get out, get out, and my bowels liquefied. So we take from this more data, adding to a profile of habit, behavior, and thought, strategy, delegation of duty, and avoidance of conflict. I was alone the first time, my family waiting in the car. He could have popped my head off, like you pop the head off a dandelion. But instead I was only told to get out. This time my whole family and our 2 friends, we were, no doubt about it, we were in the Hibagon's eye. I haven't had them yet in my eye, for sure. But we've been in their eye, I'm sure, many times. But this time, undoubtedly. The butt print was fresh when we found it an hour after we parked. And that butt print was just looking right down on our parked cars. That Hibagon lookout saw us, and he chose to leave the area peaceably. No screaming, no infrasound or whatever they did to me before, and did to Yoichi and me this spring, I believe, when we got near that place where I might have photographed them hunkered down, and I still can't decide about that. Fresh butt print, fresh torn up trees, torn by fingers, 0 tooth or claw marks. You have to believe a guy who grew up in the woods in northern Ontario, or not, but look at the photos and videos. It's hands with fingers, like kielbasa sausage, ripping trees apart lengthwise like disposable chopsticks, ripping trees out of the ground and replanting them upside down. We found more of the same last trip, and one thing that unsettles me, in a way, more than these displays of brute force, it affects me in the way that the recurrence of pottery shards affects me. Why single shards of pottery? Why positioned where they are? One in the center of a small, artistic, symmetrical arrangement. You can't even call it a structure. It's art. One in the side of a cliff, above a structure, a collection of sticks and logs up in a tree. One pushed into a trail along which there were several structures, and one at the head of the vertical trench that Yuki and I found on Mount Zhao a few months ago, with a stone head wall from our ancient castle and a Hibagon structure nearby. That's 4 pieces of pottery, always single, always imported, carried into remote places, and always blue. Always blue. See? They have a thing about blue pottery shards. So now I have a thing about blue pottery shards. See? Now they're inside my head in a way that large timber structures don't so much get inside my head. I say it this way to introduce something so small and so easy to miss. Everyone in my group missed it, but me. And even with it pointed out to them, they miss it. They go, well, that is weird, I guess. Not implying that my family and friends are dumb. They're dullards. They're not. They're not at all. Now, you're not either. Christopher Noel has a fascinating theory, very well thought, well explained theory, that we could understand these fellow creatures, perhaps, if we use what we know of autism, if we approach them that way. It's not as simple as saying that they are all autistic. No, it's much more nuanced and sophisticated than that. My friends and family are not on the same spectrum as I think these fellow creatures are, and I think I have one foot on that spectrum. And maybe, I don't want to nominate anyone, but the The two people that I most respect in original research, ongoing real research, I suspect they might have a foot on that spectrum too. And it's kind of scary for me. I'm afraid of heights, as you know. It's a feeling like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down. These guys, these 8-foot tall hairy giants, really got into my head with this small thing. You can see it in this photo. I'll tell you about it in the next video. But I have to set it up like this. I don't want you to miss it. It is so small. It's easy to miss. But it could be one of the biggest discoveries and windows into the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Hibagon mind ever. One of the biggest things ever. That's why it has had me paralyzed, not knowing how to think, let alone talk about it. But of course, I have to. I'll try to bring it out to you before New Year, because I want to start the new year reading Lost Tomb of the Mother Goddess. All right. Thank you. I love you. And again, from Fukuyama, Japan, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.